Hey, it's Michaela. Boop. And it's week 22. Doo-doo. If you're new here, I am making an album. I make a video update about that process. I also make a short new song every week and I post it here. That's what I'm up to currently. So, yeah.
Happier with your mouth more open. Ha!
Oh yeah, this is why I stopped doing this, 'cause it feels really terrible and I hate it. Can't stop sucking at decisioning. What's the point of learning a lesson when I could just make the same mistake? Drink my own milkshake over and over and over and over again. I think I can outsmart my past self. What does she know anyways? I'm the one who's gonna die first. That automatically makes me wiser. She doesn't know real life like I do. It doesn't count as a mistake if you do it twice or thrice or fourice. I must know what I'm doing, 'cause I'm doing it again. I must know what I'm doing, 'cause I'm doing it again, again, again. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Woohoo. This week's video is about how I came up with my new slash first logotype, which looks like this. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, especially being like my first one, and especially not hiring anybody to do it who's actually good at graphic design. So yeah, I'm going to take you through my sketchbook and the process I took to get here. And my goal was just to make something usable, and I think I accomplished that goal. So here we go. All right, so before I started work on the logotype, I had already done research on artists similar to me, and I had already created a mood board and come up with some colors that I liked. Now, they were just a rough draft, and I am still going to be adjusting my colors, but having that really helped me to have something to work with and a mood and a vibe that I was going for. After I already had the colors and mood board, I began my logo research. I just went to Google and I Googled all these artists that were similar to me that I had on my mood board, found their logos and collected them together. I picked some of the ones that I liked more, like there were elements about it that I liked, and we put it in an Illustrator file. Then I went back to Pinterest just to do some general logo and font research and found any type of fonts that I liked, I just put on this board. Even if I knew that it wasn't what I would use, I wanted to see if any patterns emerged in the things that I liked as I filled up my board, and that definitely happened. I liked mismatched lettering, so letters that weren't exactly the same, letters that didn't fit together in an even line, letters that wrapped together with each other. And I ended up using all of those concepts in my final logotype. So that was really helpful. So at this point, I have some artist references and I have some general logo and font references. And I put my favorites into this Illustrator file with also a solid draft of the color palette I wanted to work with. And my husband decided to help me get the brain juices flowing, because at this point I was like, I don't know what the heck to do. I don't know anything about graphic design. I don't know how to make a freaking logo. So he's good in Illustrator, and he was like, I'm gonna help you, babe. He never calls me babe. I don't know why I said that. But yeah, so he just did this. He calls it a work chain, which is basically like a brainstorm, and you save all the steps of your progress. And by the end of it, we didn't have anything to use, but we had the brain juices flowing, and we had the concept of a dandelion, which I didn't want to stick with, but I knew there was something there, and that did end up carrying over into the final logo, and you'll see why. Seeing all those references in the Illustrator file made me feel really comfortable about trying to just hand draw my logo. I'm pretty DIY as a musician at this point, and I'm pretty raw. So I figured it would be fine for me to hand draw. So I just went to my sketchbook and started drawing. I started writing my name, and it looked pretty bad, and I got stuck really quickly because I'm like, this looks like crap! This looks like garbage. And so I needed some help. So I went to the University of YouTube, and I found this video by Bring Your Own Laptop about how to make a logo. And the first thing that he suggested was to make a good brief. So define yourself, define what you want out of this logo. Who are you? Who is your audience? All that stuff. So this is the brief exercise I did from Bring Your Own Laptop. I had to define my values, mission statement, target audience, competitors, which are those similar artists that I talked about earlier, my objective for using this logo, what am I going to use it on? The theme, so like the message or feeling I wanted to convey when people see the logo. And then customer story, so my audience, who are they and what did they want? What do they need from me? After that brief exercise, I took 3 words that I felt were pillars of me and my music: introspective, playful, and comforting. And I did a mind mapping exercise where I made lists of related words and images and then tried to see where they overlapped and kind of roll with that. I started more by thinking about an icon rather than an actual logo. I noticed that picking flowers and dandelions still came up in related words, and I didn't like the seedy dandelion, but I still pursued the idea of the dandelion. And another thing that I really liked was notebooks and paper, and also pens and pencils, like sketching and drawing and doodling. So those were the concepts that I decided to pursue. And then I just kind of made some drawings. I knew I didn't like a regular dandelion, so then I thought, how about just like an actual yellow dandelion rather than a seedy dandelion? And it still wasn't quite right. Then we were at the park and I saw a little wilted daisy, and I thought, oh, maybe it should be a wilted dandelion because I may seem pretty happy, but actually I'm kind of sad a lot of the time, and I'm just a goof, and it helps me cope. So I just felt like it was really fitting. And I came up with this wilted dandelion J, and I really liked it. I was like, that's so cute. I really like that. But apparently to other people, they couldn't tell it was a J, and I ended up ultimately agreeing. So anyways, the next step was, okay, you can't tell it's a J, so I'm going to try to turn the flower into an O. And I really, really liked that. My mother-in-law and Bronson also said, it still kind of doesn't look like an O. Maybe for people that know what they're reading, like they're already familiar with Michaela Joy, they would know it's an O, but if you're trying to make something that anybody could recognize and read, you should probably just write an actual O. But even though I didn't keep the dandelion as the J, I got to keep that swoopy shape that looked like a wilted flower. So I was really glad that I pursued that idea because it totally influenced the shape of the J, the shape of the lettering. So that's how that initial work chain that Bronson did in Illustrator, and he came up with this idea of the dandelion, that's how it all connected, which is super cool. It's really cool how the creative process works. Michaela, I really wanted it to be lowercase, but I couldn't get it to look good. So I just made it uppercase and just did my handwriting, and that was fine. And I came up with this combination of Michaela on the top and Joy on the bottom. I liked it enough to write it over and over and over and over again, trying to loosen up my hands. So I'm glad I wrote it over and over again because it did help me figure out how I wanted to write Joy. And I did end up liking this a lot, enough for it to be a final competitor, but I kept thinking it looks like a soap brand or something like that. It looks like a crafting logo, not a musician. I also didn't like the balance of the words, so the next thing I tried was trying to make the Michaela taller and skinnier so it more matched up with the length of Joy underneath. And then I kind of accidentally came up with these ink dots just because I was writing slowly and carefully, and it was making these ink dots show up. And both of those elements ended up in the final design. I had some thick spots on the word, and the letters ended up being taller and skinnier and matching up with the size of Joy. But at that point, I knew that was better, but still wasn't quite right. Still looked like a soap brand or something. So I brought it to Bronson, and he just did a bunch of random sketches. The Michaela under the roof of a house. He tried to copy my handwriting for the joy, but he ended up making it way more spaced out, and it looked like it was written with string, and I really liked that. I really liked it. So I kept that for the joy, and now we just had Michaela to finish up. So the next step was to try fitting the Michaela together with the joy, and because I was trying to fit it on top of the joy, it then kind of invited me to make the letters within Michaela also try to fit and overlap with each other in weird ways. And I struggled a lot with where to put the friggin' dot of the joy, but we ended up figuring to put it right under one of the legs of the M, and it makes it look like an exclamation mark. I did play around with trying to make it look good side by side and with just the initials. I didn't end up liking it side by side at all, so we're probably only going to use it stacked on top of each other. Now that I came up with that one, I knew that I had two strong competitors. The first one, this one, and then the one that I ended up with. I put all these different variations, like with a circle or with lines, into a GIMP file. Then I had to learn how to actually use GIMP, which took me an entire day, maybe two, I don't remember. And in that file, as I eliminated options, I scooted them over to the left, and then I ended up seeing what I liked best, and that's how I ended up with this one. I tried variations of thickness of the lines and adding other elements to it. And I liked the thin Michaela and the thick joy with no extra stuff around it, possibly a circle in the right context. And there we go. The end.